Springtime for Hela and zombies. Winter for Loki and Thor. Springtime for Hela and zombies. Captain, please stop this. No more. You never support my dreams. Roll the intro. Greetings, fellow Voyagers. I am Captain Arnold, King of the SS Artifice, and welcome to the Voyages, where I talk about science fiction media and try to analyze its deeper meanings. So what the heck was that all about? Well, obviously it was comparing Hela to Hitler, but how on earth did I get to that idea? Well, to talk about that, we have to go back in Thor's history. Before the Thor movies, before the MCU, before whatever this is, even before Thor ever appeared in comics. We have to go way, way back to 1941 to talk about Captain America. Joe Simon went on record as saying that Captain America was made as an intentionally political character, and that character's purpose was pretty clear. However, more than just a repudiation of Nazis, it also took their iconography and threw it back in their faces. Steve Rogers is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white Christian man who becomes a literal superhuman. He is the Aryan Ubermensch that Nazi Germany dreamed of, and here he is, socking your leader square in the jaw. It's a really powerful image, and one that resonated with so many people that it sold over 1 million copies. However, the reason this came out when it did, months before America officially joined World War II, was because of the creators. Joe Simon and Jack Kirby were both Jewish Americans who had very personal stakes in preventing an anti-Semitic genocide. That's not to say people can't just choose to not be a genocidal monster, but Jack and Joe had very personal reasons for wanting to sway public opinion. Especially when Madison Square Garden had a pro-Nazi rally just 2 years prior. And good lord, is hearing a bunch of Nazis give the Pledge of Allegiance shit your pants terrifying.
And the Republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
They were more than justified in wanting to make Americans side with the European allies. So what does any of this have to do with Thor Ragnarok? No, Thor does not go around punching Hitler's, but Taika Waititi has shaped Thor into being a vehicle that can fight today's monsters. Thor is a Scandinavian man, or Scandinavian myth. I'm not really sure how to classify him in this case, but either way, he comes from a land where the vast majority of people are white. He fought for the sovereignty of his people and is himself one of the strongest beings in the universe. He is a white nationalist's wet dream. Until now, when he fights alongside people of other races, other sexualities, and works to topple fascist regimes. He's a white guy trying his best.
I think it's great that there is an elite force of women warriors. It's about time.
While Taika himself is Jewish, here in 2018 we don't have Nazis. We have... What? Nazis? But we had like a whole thing! There was a whole thing! Why did... Man, I hate Nazis. So I guess this is a thing we're still dealing with? Assholes. But Taika still comes with a different perspective. As more than just a Jewish man, he's also Polynesian, which means that every facet of his life has been shaped by colonialism. I mean, everyone's life is inherently shaped by colonialism, but I feel like Polynesians get a particularly strong kick in the Mayflowers. Even the word Polynesia was made up by a Frenchman. Taika takes this experience and chooses to show us the weeds it planted that drain modern society. And there's one group in modern society that represents both that never-dying Nazi party as well as the gross after effects of colonialism. Folks, have I got a dapper white nationalist for you to meet. I'm sure I've lost you at least a little bit there, since Hela doesn't bear any of the obvious symbolisms of the alt-right. Mainly in that she's dressed in a skin-tight leather onesie rather than, this. And she fights with various sharp things instead of tiki torches. But the most important things about her are baked firmly into the ideology and methodology of far-right extremists. She was something buried away and ignored by the powers that be, assuming that they would just go away. She feeds on insecure white guys with gun fetishes to bring people to her side.
How would you like a job?
Much like how the alt-right tried to pitch themselves as the new punk rock, Hela believes herself to be the future, despite being an embarrassing relic of the past.
All because they couldn't see the future. Sad.
And she likes saying stupid things just because she thinks it'll trigger the libs or whatever.
So simple. Even a blind man could see it.
But most importantly, she uses the excuse that all of the atrocities committed by the past are justified by whatever niceties the present has. In fact, there's a certain speech she gives in the middle of the movie that had me squirming in the theater because it reminded me of a meme I saw floating about alt-right Twitter circles. Actually, hang on, I should try and find it to show it to you. I couldn't find it. So I guess I'll just have to describe it to you as best I can. It had, just a picture of some colonialist white dude, and then it said something like, our ancestors lived in a time where your worth was based on how much you conquered, how much you killed, and how much you owned, or something like that, and we should not be ashamed of our ancestors for blah, blah, blah. Typical hand-washy nonsense that's meant to keep people from looking at the world critically. Hela pushes for the same thing, criticizing Odin for trying to move on from his past self and into a world where peace and togetherness are celebrated rather than conquest and war. If you're still not sold on her being a white nationalist stand-in, I think it's worth pointing out that Thor's big fight music is literally called the Immigrant Song. God, that's got all the subtlety of a Mjolnir to the face. While it's easy to point the finger at Hela and say, bad guy bad, stop bad guy from batting all over the place, she uncovers a truth about Asgard, and more importantly about ourselves, that Thor and we, the audience, have to come to terms with. We've heard about the conquering Odin and his father did in the 2 films prior, but they were spoken of like they were myth, some kind of dark fairy tale that can be forgotten because it's not happening in front of us. Well, it's that way to the Asgardians, but to the Frost Giants and the Dark Elves and to Surtur, it's their anchor. Everything in their lives has been dragged down by Asgard. I mean, Odin stole a baby and raised him into Mr. Steelio Girl over here as compensation for not destroying all of Jotunheim. Odin was a monster. But we don't think about that in the moments of the film because they don't mesh with the Dumbledore-esque father figure we see for most of the movies.
You see, you never knew him. Not at his best.
Much like American slavery or World War II, it's easy to say that racism and Nazism are dead, even when they're marching down your street. And I get it. Really thinking about the after effects of racism and anti-Semitism and all kinds of other isms is daunting. I think there's a human reflex that knows we're about to experience a world of guilt and powerlessness that causes our survival instincts to just reject thinking about it. We bury it, hope it will stay dead. That's what Odin did. He buried away his sociopathic daughter in a green goo dimension. He buried his treasures of conquest in a vault, and he simply painted a new mural over his old one.
It seems our father's solution to every problem was to cover it up.
However, in all his burying, he still kept all the gold that decorates Asgard. He keeps all of his stolen treasures. Hell, he doesn't even tell Loki about his heritage until Loki finds out for himself.
Because I'm the monster parents tell their children about at night?
Asgard is fundamentally broken. So stuck in the Dark Ages that it's literally a flat Earth. Everything about it is a monument to a time where murder was treasured. There's a little touch that I really admire that shows Hela holding up Mjolnir, showing that every part of Thor's identity had its roots in this cavalcade of crap. No one is immune to the ripple effects of history. Even the most well-meaning of us gain privilege from colonialism. Seeing Hela hold up Thor's hammer reminds me of a quote by civil rights activist Audre Lorde. "The Master's tools will never dismantle the Master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change." Thor had to lose Mjolnir and find a new strength within himself in order to bring about a better world. Of course, it's not entirely about understanding the changes you need to make with yourself, but to understand the weaknesses of that which needs changing. Thankfully, Thor Dwayne The Rock doesn't skimp on those moments either. If we take Hela as the stand-in for white nationalism and neo-Nazism that I've been saying she is, then we can see the cracks in that philosophy. While it may feed on insecurities, it does not actually care for the people it puts into its web.
Tell me about yourself, Scourge.
Well, me dad was a stonemason, me mum was
Right,
a
yeah,
seamstress.
I'll stop you there.
While its figures may seem uncaring, unflinching, and unstoppable, the truth is that they are hiding a deep sadness.
I thought you'd be happy to see me.
And even when its army is coming after you, they don't realize that they're already dead. I don't mean that literally. I don't think that white nationalists are actually zombies. I mean like
It's metaphorical!
Yes, thank you, Guardians. This is why Thor's lesson is seemingly a rebuke of everything white nationalism stands for.
Asgard is not a place. Never was.
Asgard's not a place, it's a people.
Asgard is not a place. It's a people.
It doesn't matter what you arbitrarily decide is your home, just care for the people in it. When your heritage is built on subjugation, destruction, and death, it is not worth preserving. This is why Asgard gets completely destroyed, because the hard truth is that sometimes to make something worth preserving, you have to start from scratch. The movie even tries to make it clear that this is not a sad moment.
It will become a haven for all peoples and aliens of the universe. Now those foundations are gone, sorry.
I heard a lot of criticism that Thor Ragamuffin was too silly and undercut this dramatic moment, but I feel like the comedy is always intentional. Taika uses comedy in this film with surgical precision. In this moment when Taika himself is playing Korg and undercutting the drama, it's to let you know that this is not a sad moment. Who cares if this imperialist dump stays around? What matters are the people, and you shouldn't lose sight of that. And yes, I'm aware I've done this whole video without once bringing up Valkyrie, or Hulk, or Jeff fucking Goldblum. But I think that just speaks to how good Thor Ragnarok is, when I can go into it for this long and still have so much to talk about. And while I could keep going, I think that would only muddle the point. It just goes to show that a movie can be silly and funny and include Hulk penis, and still have plenty of depth and thought put into it. I'm Captain R.L. King of the SS Artifice. Be good to each other.